Hi, my name is Autif Kamal. This is another episode of Be Logical. On February 25th of this year, a representative of BP testified before a New Orleans federal court. And before I continue, just letting you know, the information I'm about to give you, I'm getting it from Michael Kunzelman, who writes for the Associated Press. The name of the article is BP Executive Testifies at Gulf Oil Spill Trial. Now first, a little background on Lamar McKay. He was a former president of BP America. Now he is a chief executive for BP's upstream unit. And the reason why he went to testify at the New Orleans federal court was because the judges were trying to determine what percentage to assign blame to each BP, Transocean, and Halliburton. And when he was asked about BP, he wouldn't assign any blame to upper level management or executives, and rather he would state that the cause of the blowout was a team effort. When he says that, he's implying that the judges should not just look at BP, but they should also look at Halliburton and Transocean. Now, if they did have any role, what could those roles be? Well, generally this is what each of these organizations does. Transocean rents out oil rigs, so if there's any way in which they could be flawed, it could be if any part of the oil rig was not sufficiently functional. Halliburton cements oil wells. Oil wells are used to extract oil. So if there's any part of the oil well that was, say, too weak, or just structurally deficient in some way, then that's a way in which blame could be assigned to them. And BP uses the oil rigs to extract oil, so if they engage in any unsafe operations of the oil rigs, then that's a general way in which BP could be assigned blame. The percentage of blame will be determined in order to decide how much more to get BP, Transocean, and Halliburton to pay. As far as at least BP is concerned, they've paid so far $24 billion for cleanup costs, for compensation for businesses and individuals, as well as $4 billion for criminal charges. There's another consideration that will be taken into account in order to determine how much they'll pay, and it is whether BP can be labeled as being, or to have been, grossly negligent. So then the natural question to ask is, what is gross negligence? Well, the U.S. Department of Justice had argued that BP was either grossly negligent or had engaged in willful misconduct. So I'm going to assume that willful misconduct is synonymous with gross negligence. And if those two are synonymous, if gross negligence is synonymous to willful misconduct, then this is also what gross negligence will mean, which is an intentional violation of a reasonable and uniformly enforced policy or rule. Okay, and I'm getting that definition from uslegal.com. And based on this definition, here is a hypothetical concerning whether BP was grossly negligent. If it can be proven that BP knowingly violated a rule or policy which contributed to the Deepwater Horizon oil spill, they will be labeled as grossly negligent. And also keep in mind that it is also possible for Transocean and Halliburton to have that same label. Okay. Now, what are the financial implications of gross negligence for BP? Well, if BP is not found grossly negligent, they will pay $1,100 for each barrel of oil spilled, whereas if they're found grossly negligent, they could pay up as much as $4,300 per barrel of oil spilled. So that's the difference between $5 to $17.6 billion of oil for 4.1 million barrels of oil spilled. And also keep in mind that it's a lot more than what the price of crude oil was back in March of 2010, which was a month prior to the Deepwater Horizon oil spill. The price was $80 per barrel of oil back in March. I'm getting the numbers in terms of the amount they would have to pay, whether they were grossly negligent or not, from Dominic Rush, who writes for The Guardian. The name of the article is BP and Justice Department Try for Deal Ahead of Deepwater Horizon Trial. And I'm getting the numbers for the price of oil from www.oil-price.net. Now, how likely is it that BP will be charged of gross negligence? Well, on May 27th of 2010, Pierre Thomas, Lisa A. Jones, Jack Cloherty, and Jason Ryan, who write for ABC News, reported that a government agency, the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, division, established that BP engaged in 760 willful safety violations. So that right there seems like it indicates, or basically says, that they were engaging in willful misconduct. Now, is it possible that BP can disprove some of those 760 willful safety violations? Yeah, it's possible that they could disprove some of those, but will they be able to disprove all of them? It would be an understatement to say that they have their work cut out for them. So I think it's very likely that if gross negligence is equivalent to willful misconduct, that BP will be charged for gross negligence.